Yo, guys, welcome to another replay analysis. There's a hair on my microphone. It's dog hair. And in today's replay analysis, we're doing Diamond versus Diamond, Zerg versus Protoss, and we're looking at the Zerg's perspective. Depthifying is our boy today. He's our subject. Let's take away the nameplates. Let's really get a full, real game here, as if this was me playing this. And I'll tell you what I would think, right? How we go throughout the game. So, we have ourselves an Overlord, a drone, 13 Overlord. You're making your shit. Everything looks fine. You've actually stacked all your close patches. So far, perfect. Everything looks great so far. Making your double drone. Okay, your double drone's is a little late. Not the end of the world, but I would say definitely that should have been priority. Just like, for instance, I think your Overlord didn't have a rally and you chose to move it. Like, your Overlord spawned and had no rally at all. And then you prioritized moving the Overlord at 31 seconds. And then you make your larva at 35 seconds. So your larva, 2 larvae here were 4 seconds late. I mean, that is a little bit of a deal, right? But just, I would definitely say, if you ever accidentally don't rally, make sure you always make larva the priority, no matter what you're doing, every time. Every single time. Thank God you're Zerg, though, because you barely almost larva cap. You almost larva cap there, but you barely didn't. Because you can go up to 3, and you hit 3 right as you made those eggs, so that's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not as unforgiving as Terran and Protoss are. Go for a 16 hatch. I like it a lot. I like your Overlord placement so far. You see your probe. That probe is very Cannon Rush-esque in terms of timing, but it's very non-Cannon Rush-esque in terms of the fact that he just ran up your ramp into your fucking main all the way. And he didn't start a pylon. But now that's a little awkward, right? He ran south into the fog. If this motherfucker does not appear right here in about 6 seconds, so around 1:11, I would be concerned for the fact that something might be going on down there. So let's watch. Your Overlord. Okay, now every single second you move further away, you add like a second or two to it. And now it's getting kind of scary. The reason why? Here's why. This probe just went... Okay, there he is. Thank God. But think about this for a second, okay? Depthifying? Think about it for a second. If the probe runs like this, he runs into Fog of War. Imagine how much... Like, you don't have to imagine. You can physically see it. How much Fog of War do you have in your base, right? This whole outer ring around your main base. The second he disappeared, priority number 1 would be do not let this Overlord lose vision of the ramp. Because for all you know, if you go over here, like you are, to the front of your natural, and let's say his probe was still missing, his probe could have gone like this. Okay, watch the mouse. His probe could have went doo doo. And then down here fucking cannon rushing you. And if you don't know that, because you went over here to go, I'm safe, versus anything approaching the natural right now, suddenly this hatchery finishes and you have 2 fucking cannons that are done right at the same time. And you're like, oh, fuck. Okay. Well, this sucks. So, the way you moved your Overlord was a little dicey. Are you going gasless? I don't know about this drone. I don't like this drone at all. Unnecessary. Your Overlord, like, what is your Overlord really doing? It's fucking nothing. Your Overlord should be doing the job of what the drone's doing now. I don't like that you're pulling a drone off. You're pulling 2 drones off. Not a fan of this at all. Basically, this is how I see it. If this was actually a cannon rush, you could just pull drones down. If you want to pull drones, you could pull drones down as he starts a pylon. If you're paranoid about getting cannon rushed. But if he doesn't start a pylon, you're just getting kind of meted here, where you're just pulling multiple drones to try and deny a potential cannon rush. I am not a fan of this at all. And even furthermore, I actually think Ravagers are the easier response than drone pull, making lings and making spines and making queens and trying to like have good micro of drones before all of this happens to like prevent buildings from going down in certain annoying spots and proceeding to prevent cannons from going down until your lings pop out. And if they do go down, then having to use spine as well to break it and you overwhelm it all at once. That is actually harder than just making Ravagers. I don't know why everyone prioritizes drone pull against cannon rush, because Ravagers is so much easier. So if you don't actually pull drones off the middle line to panic about a cannon rush and be like, is it going to happen? If you just mine your gas like normal, and then it actually ends up being a cannon rush, you just go, oh, you know what? Fuck it. Skip speed, make Ravagers. You don't gotta go all in with this or anything like that. You don't gotta be like, okay, well now I have to go Ravagers all game. You just make literally 3 Ravagers. Just 3. And then you can stop mining gas entirely and go for like a third base. Or continue to mine gas until you get speed and then go for a third base or whatever. Go back to playing standard. And you will crush the shit out of a cannon rush. The only cannon rushes that are different and exceptions to this are Stalker cannon rushes or Mortal cannon rushes. And then with those, you would need to make more than 3, obviously. You would need to make as many as possible because he's going to be all-in you with units. I just am not really a fan of the drone pulling here because what you're doing right now is you don't have a third base and you're also gasless. And you are going for a third base. You're doing a very difficult build. This build is very difficult. I'm just going to throw it out there right now. First things first is your hatchery, your third base, is pretty late. Your third base, honestly, should be going down at 19 supply. If you're going to go 3 base gasless. If that's your plan. So 16, 18, 19 should be your build order for this. And this game, I feel like you went 16, 18, and you're basically doing the equivalent of like 21. Or you could even go, you could have like 22. You're throwing this down at like 22 supply. Because you have 2 larvae sitting there and you have enough money to spend your 2 larvae. So this is a super late third. Your third's late by probably about 20 seconds, or 25 seconds. And your Overlord, if you're going to go 3 base, if you're going to go 3 hatch, second Overlord, what it needs to do is you need to cover your natural, like we talked about a second ago, like cover the area. And then as soon as your natural is like that much in production and you know nothing's happening here and you're about to start, like your third's already like underway, like your third should be like about there when your natural's almost done. Your Overlord, maybe even like when your natural's like there, honestly, like 75% of the way done or so. Take your Overlord and run it to your third base. Because again, just like you did with your natural, you'd want to do the same thing with your third base. You want to see if there's fucking cannon rush happening before the hatchery's done. You want to know if you're getting cannon like when the hatchery's like there or something. Oh, so that way you can always have the option to cancel it, to either like go kill the cannon rush if it's early, or if it's like there's no way I'm stopping that. You don't have to let the hatchery finish. You can always you can even let the cannons finish and then cancel the hatchery and then make him make a bunch of money wasted and you just rotate bases. So your Overlord being right here serves no purpose. This Overlord right there right now serves literally 0 purpose. Sharvy, thank you for the 8-month resub. Thank you, dude. Definitely need your Overlord here if you're going to go for a third base like this. What's up, Beast McCoy? What's up, dude? Okay, and now you're larva capped on your main. Not great. How much money did you have? Okay, you went for a queen priority. I would disagree with this. Larva is always the priority. Every fucking time. It does not matter what you're doing. The only time ever queens are the priority is when you actually need them for the defensive purpose of the fact that they're a queen. So like if you're getting Ling main all in and you're like, I need queens. Like it's a 1 base Ling main all in and I need to prioritize queen because if I get queens on the ramp and if I get enough queens in front of my natural, I'll survive. Or if you're like, you realize the Protoss is going fucking proxy Stargate or some shit and you're like, I need queens. Queen priority over larva when it's defensively purposed is okay. But queen priority over larva when you're just macroing is never okay. The fact that you have 4 larvae sitting there and you're, really, you have 3. You're about to have 4. Now you have 4. The fact that you have 4 larvae sitting there and you prioritize the queen instead on both hatcheries and then you spend your larva, I disagree with this entirely. Spend your larva. Like, if you have like 1 larva per hatchery, like if both hatcheries looked like that, I'd be like, that's fine. Like 1 larva sitting there is not a big deal. 2 larvae sitting there, a little bit more extreme because you're getting close to 3. But if you ever have 3 larvae sitting there and you prioritize queens over larva, this is totally fucked. Because like I've always said before, larva inject is only 50% of your larva. Automated larva is the other 50%. They both generate 3 larvae every 30 seconds. So if you're just sacrificing automated larva to get a queen out faster, you're fucking your larva up one way or the other. And you're actually delaying future economy, faster economy by delaying your drones that you could have made already. The more drones you have, obviously, the more you can afford. So, larva priority. Get that shit spent down to like at least 1 per hatchery and then make your queen. You almost larva cap this hatchery too, which is scary. Okay, you have an overlord started. Good. And again, larva priority, and then you can make another set of queens. Good. You actually are doing a larva priority this time. This is correct. Now you can make queens, and you're totally fine. You should definitely make more queens, though. You want to go above 1 queen per hatchery if you go gasless. Your queens are not doing anything. I think you're scouting his base right now, probably, so you're not paying attention. Definitely want to make sure you inject ASAP, right? Because now you're missing. This is larva again. You're missing. And this is the biggest thing I always try to tell people or try to explain to people, which is if you scout everything your opponent does, okay? If you literally scouted everything and you're like, I know exactly what's going on. If it comes at a cost of your macro, that's not worth it. I would rather you not scout anything. And I know this is diamond, okay? So you should be able to do both. But I'm just wanting you to know there is a priority in things. And you need to know these things because you're so far this game I've seen you prioritize 2 wrong things first. You should be doing all the things all the ways as much as you can. But there are priorities that take more precedence over others. Just like how you prioritied a queen over larva, which only should have happened if you were getting all in. Like, and you needed the fucking DPS of the queen and the tankiness of the queen. If it's just macro, larva's priority. And same thing here, you're prioritizing your scout over your larva again, because now your queens are done, and you're waiting to inject for such a long time. Also, your gas are way too fast. We'll talk about that in a second. They're kind of too fast. We'll talk about it. But you're now injecting your bases. Your main cell isn't injected at all. I don't know what's going on with the main base. There we go. You injected your main base when you had 36 energy on the queen. That's a long time to wait. So, and you also waited a long time also to make your queens. And what did you do it for? This is where the fuck up is. So, check this out, okay? Check this out. Let's talk about your scouting again. Watch your scouting. I want to explain something to you really fast that I feel like a lot of Zerg players may or may not understand. So, when you scout a guy's base, and you see a gateway and a cyber core, how long do you see the gateway for? Okay, good shit. You actually saw it. So, I just want you to know, anyone who does this right here, what this guy just did, they are not going to have tech. Like, they're going to have tech soon, but they're not going to have it immediately. They are not going to have it immediately. What does this tell you right now? You don't know if it's an adept. You don't know if it's a stalker. You don't know if it's a sentry. It's probably not a sentry. Most people don't open sentry first. It's super rare. But it's probably either a stalker or an adept. Now, here's how we can tell further, okay? Like we'll talk about it. We'll come back to it, okay? Remember, we're going to come back to the gateway and describe it in a second. Now, look at the core. It's spinning. The core is literally spinning. we can tell automatically that this dude has spent at least 75, if not 100 gas on this so far. And if a Protoss does that right when the core is done, they did not go tech first. You cannot afford tech and a unit and upgrade out of your warp gate all at the same time. You physically can't afford that. It is fucking impossible if the Protoss plays a standard build, which is like a gateway expand. The only way a Protoss can afford tech right away as they go gateway core is if they like double chronoed their Nexus and they double gassed their mineral line, their first main mineral line, like right off the bat, and they started mining 6 on the gas at like 1 minute into the game. That's the only way they can afford tech plus this. So the fact that you see this already tells you tech is delayed. Tech is not priority. Like, tech is going to happen, but it's not prio. It's not like all-in tech type shit. It's not like, it basically, people who do shit like this, where they go tech after warp gate and tech after unit out of gateway, those builds are more third base centric builds. They're less all-in centric builds. So automatically, this already looks less like a charge lot all-in. This looks less like a fucking Blink Stalker all-in. It looks less like an Immortal all-in. It could be. It still could be, but it's if it is one of those things, it's going to be a little bit weaker because he's delaying his tech, which is going to make the timing weaker overall. If he wanted to prioritize the tech, that's all in shit right there. That's like, okay, he's going super fast fucking DTs, or he's going for a charge lot all in because he went immediate council or something like that. So when you fly into his main base, you should have that inclination now to go, okay, this is more likely going to be macro. And like right now, as you saw that, that's so much info, and you should be paying attention to this. Like, you should definitely fly into his base with your Overlord. Like, you don't have to stare at it the whole time, but you should definitely fly into his base like you're staring at it like crazy. How long have you been staring at this for? You start looking at it at 210. Okay, you look back at your base for a second. You go back at 218. You stared at his base for 33 seconds. It's way too fucking long. That is way too long to stare at his base for. And I feel like that's just because you're not understanding how to read a Protoss. So, because again, you stared at his base from 218 to 251. So, just keep in mind, remember if the core and the gateway go as like, you can tell what it is, right? Because your Overlord gets to the core as the core finishes. So, if the core is done, and the gateway and the core both go, they start doing their shit, especially if he chrono boosts the gateway, that means he's definitely not going to fucking trick you, essentially. Because that's a waste of a chrono if he just cancels the Stalker and is like, I'm actually teching because I just wanted to meta you. No one really, it's very rare when people do that. Super fucking rare. And if he chronos the gate, that's committed right there. He's totally fucking doing it for real. Don't even think about the meta part. Just pretend you don't even understand meta. Just go, oh, gateway core being built? Cool. He's not teching super fast. He still will tech eventually, but it's not super fast. Then you can tell your Overlord, go to the main base. That's totally fine. Fucking macro in the process because your queen's being delayed. Like the original point we made here a second ago was if your macro is improper and you focus way too hard on scouting, even if you have perfect scouting and you see the second he makes a building, you click it and you go, I know what it is. If you fuck your macro up in the process, you can't even deal with what you see properly. Like, you still die. So you have to not fuck your macro up to give yourself the tools to actually be able to deal with what's happening. So the Overlord over-invested attention here. Big time. Now, secondly, here's an important thing to note. Do you have any Zerglings? You do. You made 4 Lings. I want you to know that if the Overlord does not get hit until about 245. So you make Lings. When do you make Lings? You make Lings at 237. Now, here's something to note, okay? Something to note. If the Protoss player makes a Stalker first, what is that Stalker going to do, hypothetically? It's probably going to come kill your Overlord. Most Purdosses who Chrono Boost out their first gateway unit, if they go Stalker first, they're not just going to sit there in the doorway while the Overlord flies around their base. They're also not going to just run across the map with a Stalker. And the reason why is because, has this guy even scouted your gases? He did initially. But if you, just for an example, when a Zerg player goes for a standard Speedling expand, speed kicks in at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And if a Stalker spawns around like 2 minutes and like 35 seconds or so, and then it runs across the map and it gets to across the map to the Zerg's base around like 3 minutes, like maybe 3:05, the Stalker has very limited time before speed's done, and if speed finishes, Stalker is gonna fucking just die. So generally speaking, I'm trying to explain why no one would fucking run a Stalker across the map. It's very rare. Only if they 100% confirmed and knew you're going gasless would they ever do something like that, possibly. But in general, if the player goes for a Stalker, it's gonna kill the Overlord. So if you look at it like this, okay, watch this. One more time. Lots of info, right? Lots of info. Core finishes at 219. 218, 219. Now look at the gateway. You see the gateway just now started. It just started going raising its like outer edges to start making a unit. You can tell because again, look at the gateway. Just look at the gateway in this. These are things that are so fucking like there's so much information right here. Look at the gateway. It's doing nothing. Doing nothing. Doing nothing. Doing nothing. Doing nothing. Doing nothing. And now watch it. It turns on. The sides raise and the crystal starts sparkling and shit. And then he Chrono Boosts it. Now check this out. The gateway went active, and you saw it with your Overlord, which I love that you saw it. 2 minutes and 19 seconds. He Chrono Boosted it as well. What is this? What like now? A lot of players probably don't know this, but this definitely means something. What does it mean? It means that add 20 seconds to that. So 219 plus 20 is 229, 239. 2 minutes and 39 seconds is when a Stalker or an Adept is going to pop out of the gateway. How do I know that? Because a Stalker and an Adept have a 30-second build time, and Chrono Boost reduces the build time by about a third. So it turns a 30-second build time into a 20-second build time because of Chrono Boost. So that means that at 239, a Stalker is going to pop out of his gateway. Or an Adept. Now you build Lings in this game at 2 minutes and 36 seconds. This is 3 seconds before an Adept could potentially spawn or a Stalker could potentially spawn. Now what would you do if it was a Stalker? So at 239 it spawns, and it doesn't obviously spawn right there. It spawns like right here. Or like right there. It spawns on the edge of the gateway. And let's say his Stalker wanted to run at your Overlord. So at 239 it spawns. And it takes the amount of time for it to travel up the ramp and hit your Overlord. It would probably get into the vision of your Overlord. If it spawned at 239, it would probably run from like here to like there in about 4 seconds, I would say. Roughly. And a Stalker would get in range of your Overlord by about like 243. If it was a Stalker. So if we fast forward now to 243... if there was a Stalker, it would probably be coming up the ramp right now, like right about here. And around 245, it would be attacking your Overlord. Why do these matter? Why does this information matter? And this is where a lot of people like don't even think about it. They're like, who gives a shit about any of this? Well, check this out. If it was a Stalker and you make 4 Lings, what are those 4 Lings going to do? If you go, oh look, my Overlord's dying. What are you going to run across the map? By the time you get there, the Adept is also, the second unit will probably be out of the gateway and blocking the door, or the Stalker will have probably killed the Overlord by then and now gotten back in the doorway. So your Lings would run across the map and do legit nothing. But if it was a Stalker, just hypothetically, if it was a Stalker, you could skip Lings altogether. You don't have to make Lings, you just make drones. And you know what happens if you make drones? You make more minerals, and the Overlord, if the Overlord does die, you pay for it faster because you made drones instead of Lings that were going to sit here and do nothing. Now, if it's not, and if you're not getting attacked by like 245, this is plenty of time for the Stalker to have been AFK for a second as well. But most players that have an Overlord in their base are going to usually be like, kill the fucking Overlord if I go Stalker first, because they really want to throw their tech down. And if they're going to go Stalker first, a lot of times they probably want to kill your Overlord before they throw their tech in your face, so they can hide what they're doing. It makes it harder for you to read what the game is, what's happening in the game. So if there's no Stalker hitting you by now, I would say now you'd want to make Lings. Now it would be appropriate to make Lings, because check this out. A Ling's build time is 17 seconds. And if a Adept spawned within the last like 6 seconds of this game, you have add 17 seconds to that, you still have plenty of time before the Adept will attack your base. So if we add 17 seconds to this, what would that put us at? It will put us at 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Let's go quickly, fast forward to 3:02. Is an Adept in your middle line yet? No. It's almost here, but it's not in your middle line yet. So you could have easily built Lings around 2:45 and still had Lings in time to deal with this, and you would have had more time to have more drones mining minerals. And if it was a Stalker, again, here's the thing. You didn't know what it was when you built these Lings, which is the only reason why I am stressing this. Because look what your Lings did. They sat here, right? And if it was a Stalker, you would have had Lings sitting here for a long time when they could have been drones. So understanding how to differentiate with this scout based on if it dies or doesn't die is a big deal on how to be greedy and take edges against your opponent. It tells you not only what he's making without even seeing it, because is your Overlord going to get attacked or not. Secondly, now, so, yeah. We'll move on from this point now. Let's talk about this. You're going gasless. You're doing, I assume, my gasless build. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're fucking it up massively with how early you're taking your gas. These gases went down at 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Or 2 minutes and 52 seconds exactly. Just to throw it out there, you only ever want to go gas at 2 minutes and 50 seconds if the Protoss... Like, you know what? I'm going to actually... Before I want to see if you're doing my build genuinely. I want to fast forward and I want to see if you go layer before and then go roaches and go for speed roaches. I just want to see what your build looks like, because you might not be doing my build. Are you going speed roaches? Okay, you are going speed roaches. Your build looks kind of crazy. Now let's go back. Now let me give you an indicator here of time. If the Protoss does not take a gateway like unit, like a Stalker or an Adept, and he does not start Warp Gate, if he doesn't do this when the core is done, and your Overlord is like passing by it, and like 6 seconds later after it now goes into Fog of War, as you go deeper into his base, he never touched these two buildings when the core was done, I'd be like, yeah, you might want a 250 gas. It's very possible. Because you know what that would mean? That's all-in potential. And that could be charge the all-in or Dark Templars. Totally could be that. 250 gas is the timing of when you want to take your gas if you are going to be all in, because you want to know what that is for your economy. It fucking sucks. 250 gas sucks ass for an economy, but it's really good at defending all ins. Double gas is correct with the build, gasless build, because guys, it's fucking gasless so far. Double gas is correct. It's not about 1 or 2 gas. It's about the time at which you take them. 250 gas is way too fucking early for a Stargate. You want to know when you should be taking gas against a Stargate? Like 3 minutes and 40 seconds. About 50 seconds later. And what is the difference there? Like, if anyone is like, I don't understand why does it matter if you take your gas at 250, or why does it matter if you take your gas at 340? Because you can't spend your larva properly if you go at 250. You will have larva sitting there all the fucking time. Because here's the thing, if you go gas at 340, you can barely spend all your minerals on just cranking out Overlords, drones, and queens. You can barely afford that. So if you can barely afford it, not even taking gas until 340, how the fuck can you afford it taking gas at double gas at 250? You can't. So you're going to have larvae sitting there all the time. But again, the trade-off would have been faster layer for faster roach speed and a faster overseer to defend faster all-in. But this is not even an all-in build. He shows you a Stargate. So the second you saw that, like, I would say this. 250 is a great time to take gas if you see a like the no production thing, and you either see a council or you see nothing. If you see nothing, or if you see a council, and there was also nothing built out of these first two buildings, 250 gas, totally fine, acceptable, very good. If you see production out of these two buildings, automatically 250 gas is fucking thrown out the window. You don't even ever do it. 3-minute double gas would be the next earliest possible thing you would do, and 3-minute double gas would be acceptable if, again, if you went for production out of these buildings and you saw a council or a robo. Double gas at 3 minutes, 10 seconds later would be fine, and those extra 10 seconds is going to jumpstart your economy even a little bit further than it would have before otherwise. Because the faster you fucking take your gas, the more it's going to fuck up your larva. That's just simply how it happens. So, double gas at 3 minutes is good when the player takes their initial shit out of these two buildings right away, and then they follow it up with a robo or a council. 3-minute double gas is great there. And then finally, if it's a Stargate, if you confirm it's a Stargate, and it is a Stargate, no matter what, you should not double gas until 3:40. 3:40. Double gas for Stargate. It's huge. Because let's watch and see what happens with your gas, okay? What's going to actually happen with your gas? Watch as their gas. Look at your minerals and look at your gas. So what have we, in the last like 4 minutes of this game, since, or like about 3.5 minutes, roughly, what has happened with you with your gas? Right now, you have minerals and queens, you have minerals and overlords, you have minerals and zerglings, you have minerals and drones, and you have 11 larvae sitting there at the moment. So you have made one overseer. The only thing to show for the early double gas in units is one overseer. And realistically, why do we need an overseer? Our Zergling has spotted a third base. You spotted the Stargate right off the bat. You can't go Stargate right away and then DTs right behind it. It's physically impossible to do that. It's way too expensive. So, like, you can't make units out of the gateway and also make a Stargate and then also make DTs all on, like, 2 bases. You cannot do that. Like, you can do that eventually much later in the game, but you can't rush to that, right? Like, it's not like a normal DT timing if you make a Stargate before DTs. It's impossible. And then he also showed you he had an Oracle because he attacked your base with it. So he further invested into the Stargate. Again, cannot afford DTs while doing that. So the Overseer realistically would be like if he's going DTs, I feel like. You could say this is a glorified scout to be like, what is he doing compositionally? We'll come back to that in a minute about how to talk about how to read that more. But in general, this Overseer, practically speaking, is not necessary right now because the practical purpose of why you would make an Overseer is for the detection purpose of it, with like DTs, and there are no DTs. So now let's look at your gas that we had from a long time ago and see what you've done with it otherwise. You've gone for +1 weapons on missiles, which again, let's be real, has that really been useful so far in this game? Like, upgrades are always useful to a degree because they're permanent, but really, what has +1 done for us so far? Is the trade-off of fucking our economy up worth it to get +1? If we didn't do a timing with it, the answer is no. And all +1's done so far is it zoned out an Oracle, but your Spore Crawler and Queen would have zoned out the Oracle either way. Like, that +1 damage on your air attack going from 9 to 10 every time it shoots it is not going to make or break the difference of, like, the Oracle getting pushed away or not. If the Queen does 9 damage, it's still going to kick the shit out of the Oracle when it combines with the Spore Crawler. So, I would say this +1 arguably has not been worth it so far. And the only other expense besides +1 that you've done for gas has been a layer and a hydrogen. And right now, at 6 minutes, we'll go back to exactly to 6 minutes. I want to see your drone count at 6 minutes. Jesus, it's on ×8. At 6 minutes, you have 56 drones. 56 drones at 6 minutes. Do you want to know a real fact? And you have 3 Zerglings. Do you want to know a real fact about how many drones you could have had if you would have done proper gas timing against the Stargate? If you would have done double gas at 340 instead of 250, and you would have not rushed your tech against Stargate, because why? There's no need to. There's legit zero reason to rush your tech against Stargate. Queens and Spores handle Stargate. But if you would have gone for 340 double gas and you would have prioritized larva, look at your larva. Like, this should never be happening ever. Larva should be getting spent the whole time. You could have had 56 drones by like 4 minutes and 50 seconds. By 6 minutes, you could have like 75 drones. I'm not even kidding. Like, that's genuine numbers. And that's if you're going to play gasless. So your build is super far behind right now. And it's for the purpose of having a layer done and an overseer and +1 missile weapons. It's like, do I want 75 drones over 55? And a little bit of a delayed overseer, layer, and +1 missile weapons? Or do I want those upgrades and have 20 less drones? And then also, around 6 minutes is when your hydrogen goes down. And personally, I like it when the hydrogen is paired with your evo chambers. You pair these buildings together. Evo chamber, hydrogen. I love double evo against Protoss. I love hydrogen against Protoss. But you should be making these 3 buildings when your 3 bases are fully saturated. And your 3 bases could be fully saturated before 6 minutes. So like, as you're starting to saturate your 4th base, you could take your hydrogen double evo, and your hydrogen would be honestly almost identical to what it is now. And your evo chamber would be basically identical to what it is now. The only thing that would be different would be that this evo chamber would be building just like this one, and you would not have +1 weapons yet. But again, what has +1 weapons done for us realistically in this game? Legit nothing. It has not even been used yet. And you don't even have any units to use it either. You have just queens. And queens are already more than enough to shut down early Stargate.
Almost a year, ViBE, yes.
Yo, Lundrel, thank you very much for the 11 months. 1 more month to a year. Hell yeah. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so now you see carriers. And now what I would say against carrier is automatically just start going into carapace and weapons. Start going double upgrades. Like, you could either go Spire against this early because he's rushing carriers, or you could go Hydras. They both work. And because you've already set yourself up for Hydras, I would say just commit the Hydras and go for this would be when you'd want to start 1-1 if you did it the way I would be recommending you to do it. But right now, again, you would have way more than 53 drones. Like, you're going backwards in drones beyond 6 minutes. Remember how I said around 450 you could have 56 drones? Probably like at 444 or 445 you could have 53 drones. And it's because you're making buildings. Like, now you have 51 drones. Okay, now you're still making drones, thank God. Your economy is just really under par to where it should be. And now you're making, here's the unfortunate thing as well. You're making Hydralisk. You are making Hydralisk when your economy is bad. This economy sucks. Nitro Billy, thank you for the tier 2 sub, by the way, for the 9-month free sub. I appreciate you, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're overreacting right now. Death defying. You know what you should do in this situation, honestly? What I would say you should do, look at your queen energy. It's so fucking high. What you should do right now is uproot your spore crawler. Like you should not have ran your queen there either. The second your overseer crossed by carrier, you should not have ran up to here to creep spread. But what you should have done in the process of what was happening is you should have uprooted the spore crawler, rooted it in front of your hatchery because carriers are flying to your base, and then guarded your spore with 5 queens. And still, and then you could honestly, because you go, oh shit, he's got carriers. You know, you could do that as well. Make a new queen at every hatchery. Grab all existing queens. Tell them to inject one more. Then you're missing injects like crazy. Tell them to inject your bases so that they don't miss injects. And then you group all your queens together. So if you just lost a queen just now, and you just lost a queen, and you currently have in total 6 queens, you could have had 7 queens and a spore to defend the carriers that show up. Because again, you saw the carrier there. So you had plenty of time to react to it. You could have like changed up a spore here. You could honestly, if you go, oh fuck, he's got carriers, you could even have brought another spore over. You could have brought a second like spore from your natural over here and put it like spore, 7 queens behind it. 2 fucking spores and 7 queens could kick the shit out of 2 carriers. And the reason why is because you can kill interceptors so fucking fast with 7 queens and 2 spores. Like there's no critical mass there of interceptors that would just be like insta killing everything. Like it would be very easy to transfuse through that damage. And you know what you should, like, again, remember how I said you would want to be making a queen in each hatchery as well to back it up? To be like, okay, now I have all my queens on defense. Let's inject our hatcheries and make a new set of queens so I can keep injects rolling. What you could do with that is you could saturate your 4th base because you're making queens to defend early air. Queens are super good at defending early air. You make drones with it, and you go up to like 85 drones. Making hydras right now, it puts you into kind of like all-in territory. Like this economy, like I don't imagine you're going to all-in though. I imagine you're going to make drones eventually again. But your economy is just looking like hot garbage right now. Your economy is so far delayed. Again, you're at like at 6 minutes and 56 seconds, you should honestly be already done droning. So you're starting hydras. Here's the crazy thing, right? Here's the crazy thing. If your economy was not fucked up for all the reasons that have already happened, you would be making hydras just like you are right now. At almost 7 minutes in the game. You would be making hydras either way. And this is where a lot of players get so confused and they're like, what? Like, this guy makes hydras at 7 minutes, so I make hydras at 7 minutes or whatever. Or a lot of people honestly don't even pay attention to the game clock. But at 7 minutes, you should actually already have 85 drones. And you should already be making hydras now for real because you're done droning. But the concept I'm trying to explain is the fact that you're undersaturated and you're making hydras against someone who's going straight skytoss is really bad. All you're doing to yourself is you're putting yourself in a situation where you're going to have very similar supplies to Protoss because you're undersaturated, and it's not good to have equal supply to Protoss when they have carrier and you have Hydra, because 1 carrier can kill 3 Hydras. So what does that mean? If you have 10 carriers versus 30 Hydras, 10 carriers are going to kill 30 Hydras. Like, carrier trades better than Hydra, equal supply. Especially since carrier can also kill, even like worst case scenario for carrier, let's say they kill half your Hydras and a lot of the interceptors just bleed out and die. He could just fly away or recall. And he kills way more than what you kill. If you kill like 30 interceptors or 40 interceptors and he kills 15 Hydras, 15 Hydras are so much more expensive than like 30 interceptors. So, again, making hydras when you can't actually afford to do it yet, all it does is it puts you in a situation where you're going to develop your economy and your supply very slowly, and you're always going to be close to Protoss in supply, and that sucks ass. If you were going to go...
Back for near 1. Go ViBE.
Yo, thank you very much, Rabbit Assassin, for the #1 bit leader spot with 500 biddies. 501 biddies. Thank you, dude. Much appreciated. But if you wanted to, if you're going to go hydras against carrier, you know what your supply should be? When the Protoss has like 90, you should have like 110. When the Protoss has 110, you should have like 150. When the Protoss has 150, you should have been maxed for a while now. And when you should have maxed would have been when the Protoss is like maybe 130. That's what it should look like if you're going hydras against carriers. And if it doesn't, it means your economy is fucked up. And it is for all the reasons we've already talked about. But again, overreaction right now to these 2 carriers. Now let's watch and see how you defend exactly. And again, also here's a huge thing too. You're doing the completely wrong thing again right now, and let me tell you why. Anyone out there who fights carriers, I want you to understand something. There is a sweet spot to fuck carriers over, which is the initiation of the fight. That is the sweet spot. If you can take it, to definitely take advantage of it. If you don't take advantage of it, it's going to be much harder to deal with carriers. And this is what I mean, okay? This is how it works. When a carrier attacks, it does not get full damage right away. A carrier has to build up its damage. Because it doesn't just throw out 8 interceptors all at once. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now it's fucking full damage. When all 8 are out, now it's at full damage. And the amount of time it takes a carrier to get to full damage is about 2 auto attack cycles. So the first auto attack of a carrier is at like 20% power. The second auto attack of a carrier is at like 60% power. And then finally, after the second auto attack, the third auto attack of a carrier is at full 100% power. So if you fight carriers when they're initiating, if you can kill interceptors as they're initiating, the carrier never gets to 100% power, because by the time they would have been at 100% power, you've already killed like 3 of their 8 interceptors per carrier or something like that, which is very realistic. So you never let them fully get to 100% power. But if you let the guy start killing your gas or your hatchery or your drones, by the time you attack him, if he has all 16 interceptors out, flying around, well, now suddenly it's much harder to deal with. So the fact that you're not staging a fight like right now, right here, again, your spore should have moved. Your spore should be like right there, right now. You want him to shoot the spore first if possible, so your queen should stand behind the spore. And you just kill interceptors as they initially engage. If he takes that fight, that's a shitty fight for Protoss. But you backed up and you just let him start unloading his interceptors like that. See how they're still unloading out of the carrier? And now they're all flying around here. Now they're all fully unloaded. That takes like 4 seconds for Protoss to do that. Because again, an auto attack of a carrier is about 2 seconds. And it takes about 2 auto attacks of a carrier to get to full power. So now, 4 seconds later, he's fucking full power. And now he's got 16 interceptors roaming around. And now they can shift targets all over the place and do full damage every time he takes a shot. So they're now much scarier than they would have been. Otherwise, if you had been able to have deleted like 6 of these interceptors as he was trying to initiate the fight. So now he's going to be able to pop your queens a lot faster. But look, even look at this crazy thing though. Even though he's full power, you're still transfusing through it. For the most part. Now you're kind of out of transfuses almost. That was like your last transfuse right there. You actually had one more barely. But you like, look at that. You crushed it, right? You fucking crushed it right there. That you let him have the advantage and you still crushed it. Imagine if you did not let him have the advantage and you fought him as it was going in the process of the unload of the carrier. Like, watch the carrier. Just look at the carrier, how it unloads like one by one by one. It's not instantaneous. And then you're killing off a bunch of his interceptors. Now he's got, on one of them he has 2, and on one of them he has 3. He had 16, now he's got 5. And what did you kill it with? Queens. Just fucking queens. And a spore. That spore honestly should have been tanking the fight as well. The spore is much tankier than a queen, so your spore should have been a tank in the front. And you would have crushed this fucking attack super hard. And you know what? You know what you didn't need? Look what's happening now too. What's happening is the fight is already over and your Hydras just now spawned. The fight's already over. And what are you going to do behind this? You're probably going to make drones. He's running away. And again, the fight is over. If this guy flies over the cliff and recalls, you will not kill these carriers. And they're going to get away. And now, look what you're making now. You're making mass Hydras. Now you're actually going... Remember how I said you're going to put yourself in the all-in category? The all-in territory? You're making more Hydras. Every time you make more Hydras, it's the same thing as like how you took your double gas at 250. You are fucking your economy up like crazy. Hydras didn't even need to be there to win that fight. And now you go back to droning. Now what are you going to do with your 15 Hydras that you just made? Are they just going to sit there? Like, why make them in the first place then? It's because I feel like it's because you undervalue queens. You're not as confident in your queens as you should be. Queens fucking shit on early air like crazy. You can, if you see a Stargate out of Protoss right off the bat, that is like a free pass to quickly saturating 3 bases. And then furthermore, if the Protoss shows you they're going skytoss right off the bat, that is a free pass to saturate 4 bases. You can't always saturate your 4th base just because they open Stargate. Because if they open up like 2 Void Rays and then go straight into like a Charge Lot Archon all-in afterwards, you probably won't be able to saturate your 4th base entirely. But that's where scouting comes in, right? That scouting also helps reveal that kind of shit. But if they go fucking Fleet Beacon, you can easily get to like 80 drones, 85 drones really early and never die. And now you have 15 Hydras just literally sitting there. And you're still at you're at 69 drones. It's now 68 because you just built a building. You're at 68 drones at 8 minutes and 34 seconds. Again, you could be at this drone count, 68 drones. You could be at 68 drones, okay? By like 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Your build is already like 3 minutes behind in economy. You should be honestly almost maxed out right now with just Hydras. You could max out with pure Hydra with upgrades, all Hydra upgrades. You could be maxed out with Hydras by like 845 to 850. 200 supply. If you wanted to just make mass Hydras. And that's assuming you made a good economy early. Which, again, for like I said before, it's been fucked up for multiple reasons. Now you scout and you see a Protoss who has carriers and ground units. So now this Protoss is going hybrid, it looks like. He's got ground and air. So now what I would do if I were you is I would add a hive and a lurker den. That's what you're doing. Like, it's totally fine to do it before as well, because most Protosses who go skytoss are going to also go for High Templar. It's just standard. So the fact that you're going for a lurker den and a hive before you realized he was going for hybrid, I'm actually totally on board with it. It makes sense. It's totally fine. All you want to do when you take the fight, we'll talk about how to micro the fight a bit more once you get there, but it's super easy. You just don't overcommit your Hydras, essentially. But yeah, we'll talk about it more when you get there. But you're going mass Hydras now on 70 drones. Again, not great. You're missing an entire mineral line saturation of drones. Almost. Like, think of like 12 drones on a mineral line. How much does 12 drones represent? It's what you start the game with, right? It's like 2 per patch on close patches and like 1 per patch on far patches. It's a lot of fucking drones to have that you just don't have mining resources right now. And now you have even less again because you keep building buildings. And you are not replacing them either. You're playing this game on such a low economy. Okay, now you're making a big mistake. You're making a humongous mistake. You just scouted. You're playing this game way too paranoid. What did you scout? You scouted hybrid Protoss. You genuinely saw it like 30 seconds ago. Like right about here, even somewhere around now. Like you ran a changeling past, right there. You ran that changeling past him. You saw hybrid with this dude right here. This guy right here sees it. You go, cool. I see a Protoss that has ground and air. He's going carriers. He's even got voids. He's got stalkers. He's got zealots. He's got more zealots coming. He's got hybrid army. It's ground and air. And what is your response to this? You're going Hive. You're getting a Lurker Den. I agree with all of it. The only thing I don't agree with is how you just decide to straight up fucking attack with Hydras only. Because think about it like this, okay? Think about, this is where a lot of people don't really think deep into their fucking future, and they just go with like, they panic. Now, go. Let me tell you something. Imagine, okay, imagine, what if your build economically was appropriate? That'd be a first step into the right direction, right? That would make a lot of sense. You'd be like, cool, I can afford shit faster now because my build is economically is good. It's efficient. We talked about all of it already with the economy focus, so we're not going to go into that again. But now let's talk about logical choices. If your plan is to go for a lair and a lurker, or sorry, a hive and a lurker den and an infestation pit, use it. Well, if we're going to go to lurkers, let's use lurkers. However, if our plan is to attack no matter what the Protoss has with just mass hydras, why make a hive? Why make an infestation pit? And why make a lurker den? That is so much fucking resources being tied up in your tech that if you didn't make these things, you would have more hydras faster to punch a hydra timing into your opponent for a stronger timing. See what I mean? It makes more sense. If we're going to go mass hydras, go fucking mass hydras. If that's your plan, you do it. That's just all you do. If your plan, though, is to go for lurkers and a hive, why attack with pure hydras? And I think most people will say, because I'll die otherwise, because he's got skytoss. It's okay. Skytoss is not unbeatable. It's not like, oh my god, it just wins the game automatically every time. It's hard to deal with sometimes, sure. But if you invest into tech and all the way to hive and hive tech and other things with it, and you do a timing off of layer hydra, why do a layer timing of hydra later? Because you go hive first and then you attack with hydras later. Like if you would have just not taken the tech entirely, you can speed up your timing attack by like 30 seconds with better supply because you're not wasting money and gas on tech. You're just going with the hydra timing and trying to smash them as hard as you can. So it increases the like percent chance of you winning that fight goes up. And if you're going to go for the tech, again, why do the attack after before you actually use your tech? Like why invest in a tech and then attack before a tech is active? All it does is it increases the chances you're going to die. You're doing like an anti-timing. And then here's another thing. If you're going to go for a timing, why kill the rocks? I feel like these are all panic moves that are just panicking. Because, like, you got to think about it. If your plan is to be meticulous and set up ideal engagements, like positionally, that usually revolves around things like tech. Like, you have an army that you are totally you are 100% willing to wait an extra 15 seconds, an extra 10 seconds to do something like kill some rocks. Because you want to set up a nice engagement for yourself. Because you're confident in your army to take the fight. If your army, though, is pure Hydra, and you're just going, you would have been much better off if you just ran up the ramp and you just went for it. Or if you just ran up the ramp and you went for it. Because, again, time is not on your side with mass Hydras. If that's all you're making. So wasting time to kill rocks is just increasing the chances that your opponent can reposition himself to get in position properly. And then you're also giving him more time to make more shit to defend properly. Because look at this. Just look for a second, okay? We're going to go back and look at the actual amount of time that we spent here. Your Hydras get to his base around... Like you get to the front of the rocks at like 9:52. Okay? And if you would have ran to the right... And you also stopped there for like 2 seconds. You ran here, stopped, and then moved again. But if you would have ran around this way, your Hydras, instead of being right here, would be like right here. Realistically. They would be in this area right there. Like this area right here. So, if we think about the difference of like how long it would take for the Hydras to go from this green box to there, or from here, through the rocks into there, I would say these Hydras right here would probably take 3 more seconds for a realistic concave to be smacking the wall down. But let's look and see how long it takes for these Hydras to now progress here. So you start getting a concave on the gateways at 10:02, like 10 seconds versus like 3 seconds. Again, time is not on your side if you're going to do mass hydras. You need to maximize time as much as possible to attack him. So again, what my final verdict here is if you're going to go for a hive and you're going to go for lurker tech, don't fucking do a timing like this. This is a good way to throw the game away. Because here's a final thing. Before we watch the fight, which I imagine is going to be horrible for you, watch this. Watch your tech. Your tech finishes at like 10:02, basically, right about when you're going to take the fight. How long do you wait until you start lurker upgrades? And how long do you wait until you start a ling upgrade and anything like this? You actually use your hive tech. How long do you wait to actually use your hive tech that you just unlocked? It's over a minute. We're almost approaching 2 minutes now of literally not using hive tech. Okay, finally. So you waited about a minute and like 55 seconds, or a minute and 56 seconds to, or more like a minute 54 or 53 seconds to actually use hive tech. And the only thing you've done so far is you started lurker upgrades. That's it. You did not start Evo chamber upgrades. You did not start adrenal glands. You did make Viper, but still, I have to argue the point of the build makes no sense right now. Like, the choices that you're putting into the game and the build itself, they do not go well together. And I feel like the only reason why things are happening the way they are is because you're panicking. Now let's go back all the way to 10:02 and let's watch the fight that you set up for yourself. So hydras are engaging ground and air together. You bled out a lot of the interceptors because this guy actually engaged you with his carriers before his fucking zealots attacked. Which is, if I was coaching this guy right now, I'd be like, why the fuck are you attacking with carriers before your melee frontline soaked damage? Because all he did was remember how I talked about initiation of carrier? You just depleted every fucking interceptor in all these carriers. You actually took for what it's worth, the hydras just fucking destroyed his carriers in terms of capacity. Now it's going to take them like 78 seconds or some shit, or 71 seconds to replenish all of these, sorry, 72 seconds to replenish all of these interceptors. It's a long fucking time. But he's out of interceptors because he took a horrible engagement here, which is the only reason why I feel like you even have a chance right now. But now you're fighting against Void Ray, Zealot, Stalker, Colossus, with, again, still pure Hydra. And he's still trying to fight you with interceptors as they spawn out one at a time. And they all just keep dying as they spawn. Not ideal for Protoss. So I feel like, again, this guy doesn't fully comprehend how to micro a carrier. Because here's a trick, okay? Protoss players. Here's a tip for Protoss players. You want to know something? You want to know what this guy could have done to have taken a much better fight? Watch this. I guarantee Protoss would have won if he did this. Fight starts. He attacks. If his army A-moves the Zerg, so this means that all the gateway units start walking to the Hydras, and he tells his carriers only, he now selects only the carriers while all of his army is going to the Hydra. He selects the carriers and goes, hey carriers, attack my assimilator. Carriers, go attack the assimilator right now. And the carriers go, they do their unload process into the fucking assimilator, and they start killing his own building. And it's away from the Hydras, so they don't fly in and fan out into the Hydras. He might even kill his assimilator, but by the time the assimilator dies, all the fucking interceptors are unloaded out of the carrier, and they're all actively roaming now. And then the carriers immediately after, like, now that when they, you know, after like 2 seconds or 3 seconds of interceptors unloading on the assimilator, he then re-A moves towards the Zerg army. Now instead of having 4 interceptors going out at a time out of 4 carriers, it's 32 all at once. And suddenly Hydra's just going, just popping like crazy fast. And interceptors aren't just getting deleted as they try to engage. Because he legit lost all of his fucking interceptors as the Zealots started to engage. Not ideal, right? Not fucking ideal at all. And if the Protoss engaged the fight that way, I do think Protoss would have won this fight. Okay, so now the carrier arrives, and you're going in the cycle of just like massing units here. You're just trying to like, you're trying to basically, again, play this like an all-in. I'm not the biggest fan of this. Because all that's going to happen right now is that this Colossus is going to melt your ass over time.
So you, a Zerg player, are telling me a Protoss player to kill my own shit.
Yeah. Assimilator's fucking, you know what an assimilator costs? You want to know what an assimilator costs? 3 interceptors. Or just kidding. It's more than that. It's 5. 5. My bad. It's 5. It's 5 interceptors. An assimilator costs 5 interceptors worth of minerals. And if you attack the assimilator and get all your interceptors out, you're going to take a ratio that is way better than killing like 3 Hydras and losing 32 interceptors with your first 4 carrier. You're going to instead take a trade that's going to be like, you're going to kill 15 Hydras, and the Zerg might actually just die. Because this is not 100 Hydras here. This is like 22 Hydras with the initial attack. Or like 24 Hydras. Thank you for the bits, though, Sir Gamer. Much love. And see, like, all that's happening right now is you're starting to take really bad trades. Because you're staying here until your Hydras all die. Like, this Colossus is going to fucking town on you right now. And now, Disruptor Shot on top of that. Kills 2 more. This Colossus is murdering you. And now what this has done for you, so you definitely should have backed off a long time ago. And now what this has done to you is look at your resources lost. In total, what you have to show for that fight is you've lost about 3,500 more resources than your opponent. Not ideal. That's not what I would call a win. It's not like, oh, that was great. Losing 3,500 more resources than the Protoss means that was kind of a wasteful fight. The only way you can play wasteful and win the game is if you have more economy than them. And you have less probes than he has drones. You are tied with him on base count, and you actually have less workers than he does. So you're playing more wasteful and less economical than he is. Now, I want to tell you something really fast. I want to paint a picture for you really quickly here. A lurker, okay, has more armor than a Hydra because it starts with where the fuck are your units? Okay. Do you have any units right now? No. I'm just going to wait till you make a unit before I explain this. So I can actually show you numbers. Okay, so like right now, we'll come back to that in a minute. Right now, you should definitely be going back to making drones again. And you're not. You're making lurkers and Hydras. You're playing the game on like shit economy the entire time.
Mineral field depleted.
Not ideal. And now you're also oversaturating your bases because you're running out of patches. You are starting another base, thank God. You did make another round of drones, thank God. But you don't have enough. You do not have enough. Like, you're still missing out on like 11 fucking drones here, ideally. Like, with the way you're playing this out, you're also playing this with very minimal defense. You're playing this with very, very minimal static defense. And you also built your static defense here, by the way, in the most fucked up way possible. I got so much to say about this right here. I'm going to tell you something really fast. If you build static D inside of your mineral line, always hug the main base over the mineral line. Because the way you built both your spine crawlers and the exact locations that they're at, you built them in a corner overlap over your mineral patches. So you have theoretically locked out the corner patches, or sorry, like the patches, like the far patches on the sides. These two patches can no longer be mined from inside because of where the spine is located. And this drone right here is fucking trapped. He will not move. Now, furthermore, on top of that, so you've fucked up 2 of your patches just by putting your spines where you put them. Now, to go further than that, you've actually fucked up your entire mineral line, other than just 2 patches. Like, so right now, you only have 2 patches out of 8 that are mining properly. These two patches on the very ends of the mineral line, the 2 close patches, they're the only ones that are mining properly. Because this patch, this patch, this patch, this patch, this patch, and this patch are all fucked up by the spore crawler. You actually connected a wall between your spines and spores to fully seal out all of your mineral lines. So the only way you can mine it is by going around the whole way on both sides. Like, look at that drone. He just was there, and now he's going all the way fucking around to turn it in. So this mineral line, even though it says 17 out of 16, it might as well say like 8 out of 16. I'm serious. Because this is some inefficient as fuck mining. Like, your patches are getting mined so slow because of the fact that your static D is blocking you. It's cucking your ass here, like, big time. What you should do, put a spine like right there. Put a spore like right there. Put a spine like right there. Like, hug the hatchery with the static D and do not connect the static D together. Leave like 1 grid gaps in between them so drones can walk through it and mine normally. And then put the rest of your static D around the back of the mineral line or in front of the hatchery. That's number 1. Number 2 is you don't have enough drones, again, to actually develop a bank. And one of the important things that this does for you, if you can actually develop a bank, is you could actually layer static D on your bases to the point where you have like 1 spore and like 9 fucking spine crawlers at this base. 1 spore and 9 spine crawlers at this base. 1 spore and like maybe like 5 spine crawlers or 4 spine crawlers at this base. Because why?
Efficiency.
The reason why I would say this one has less spines is because this is no longer an outer base. This is now an inner base. You could even have like 2 spines on this base. I would honestly be okay with the fact that you have 2 spines in a spore here. That's totally fine. Because this is an inner base. It's not an outer base. Outer bases are the ones that are going to get attacked first. Otherwise, he would be walking through the middle of all of your creep to attack it, and it's very obvious. Your army could defend it then. So, main bases and outer bases always need to have like 8 spines or 9 spines. Inner bases can have like 2 spines and you're fine. Why make all the static D? If I played you, myself, a Protoss player who's capable of being GM, I would fucking run your ass over with charge lots. I would not even have to take a serious fight with skytoss versus whatever you have as Zerg. I would just have zealots running constantly over your mineral lines over and over and over and over. 8 zealots show up or 10 zealots show up, kill 1 fucking spine crawler or 2 spine crawlers, your spines die, and then you lose all your fucking drones. And if you go, well, ViBE, that's impractical. I have an army that can defend it. Well, guess what? If you're busy defending zealots, I'm killing all of your creep with my army. My army kills all your creep and it blinds your ass as Zerg. And if I drag you to the right with my zealots, I kill your expansions on the left with my skytoss. Vice versa, if I drag you to the left with my zealots, I kill your expansions on the right with my skytoss. It's fucking important to make static D in this game. At this stage, when you're playing against skytoss with Hydro Lurker. But yeah, you're taking forever to remax, mainly because, you know, the economy is weak. And you're making a bunch of lings. You started upgrades for lings. I'm not gonna laugh at you and be like, slow lings. You did a gasless opener. It's okay. Definitely would want to have made the upgrades a little bit faster, obviously, but the fact that you have slow lings right now is not the end of the world. I'm okay with it. The concept is actually correct, and when you made them, you do not have enough gas to max out on gas right now, so you made lings instead, and you're trying to initiate counterattacks with lings to buy yourself time to mine more gas to max out on gas units. I'm okay with the concept of what you're doing. It's correct. Unfortunately, they're not going to do very well, though, because they're slow lings without any weapon upgrades, so they're going to get shit on. Now, I'm going to watch this, okay? So, the way you're setting up fights, again, I feel like you're playing a very impatient style of ZvP. Super impatient. It doesn't line up for what you're going for. If you're going to be aggressive, don't even take tech. If you're going to be aggressive, be the guy who stays on, like, just mass Hydras all game, or, like, Hydra Ling Bane. You never go beyond that. If your plan is just to attack, the fact that you have lurkers, the fact that you have infestors, the fact that you have vipers is all wrong. It's all wrong. For aggression. What you should be doing with this army is being defensive and consuming the map. Like, you should take a base and fortify it. Take a base and fortify it. Scout where he goes with changelings. And zone him with this army defensively. Do not attack him with this army. What happens when you attack a Protoss in fucking Fog of War with your army like this is that Protoss is legit fucking a move to what Zerg has to do here. Okay? So, Protoss is before you shit your pants and go, okay, Zerg bias here. Let me explain, okay? Hold on. Protoss's army is a bunch of A move units and Templar. Genuinely, that's what it is. It's fucking all A-move units and Templar. So what does Protoss have to do when they fight in the middle of the open? They A-move you, and they control Templar. They either storm you or they feedback you. That's all they fucking do. And their army is generally pretty tanky, and it doesn't need to be micromanaged positionally either. It's just kind of A-move. Zerg, on the other hand, you have a spellcaster, you have a immobile siege unit who has to go through phases, either burrow or unburrow, and you have Hydras, which are basically made out of fucking paper. Have you ever held a piece of paper over a fire? That's how fast Hydras disappear to skytoss and storm combined. You have a lot of shit to micromanage in this fight. So don't give the Protoss the advantage of running into his territory. Don't do that. Do not fucking run into Protoss and go, okay, let's take an army that takes like 200 IQ to micromanage versus an army that takes fucking 40 IQ to micromanage. You're going to lose almost every time. It's so fucking hard to out-micro Protoss with this. Aggressively. So what can you do then? Fucking take an expansion, set up a fortification of like Spore Crawlers and Hydras and all your spellcasters with Lurkers, and let Protoss attack into you, because you want to know what? When a Protoss has to attack into a Zerg's fortification, otherwise Zerg just gets a bunch of economy, and the Protoss is fighting into Lurkers, fighting into Spore Crawlers, fighting into fungal growth as they engage, fighting into like parasitic bomb, or they're getting abducted as they engage. These things are so much easier to set up when your army is already pre-spread behind Lurkers and Spores. So much fucking easier to set up for Zerg. But you can't set it up as Zerg if you have to do it in a split second, because you're running into Fog of War. It's impossible. Like, do you have 5,000 APM? And is it all effective and like accurate APM? No, nobody fucking micros like that. Even someone like Cyril or Raynor would be like, holy shit, this is very fucking hard. Like, you're putting yourself in a position that's guaranteed gonna lose when you do this. So just don't fucking attack with this army. Make the Protoss feel pressured by running out of money, and your Lings, this is correct, Lings with adrenal glands, Lings with upgrades, they go over and they break Protoss apart. And then what does that do? It puts Protoss into a situation where they go, fuck, okay, I gotta either defend this base, or I gotta, you know, lose it, and then I got to do something. But do I want to all in now with my sky toss? Well, guess what? If he runs into your static D, that's wonderful for you. That's what you want him to do, because you have a way better chance to win the fight if you're fighting again behind spores and lurkers. Because you're not running your army in the middle of nowhere. You're keeping it defensive and you're zoning where he goes. Now, let's say hypothetically, your Lings do a really good job and you start breaking his ass over here, and he either recalls or he sends his whole army up here to defend his base. Guess what you can do then? Now you can move your Hydras forward. You can kill like this base, like with Lurkers and Hydras. Or you can kill this base with Hydras and Lurkers because his army is way the fuck over here. And you see it with your Lings. And then as soon as you see your Lings die and his army comes back down, fucking run away back to the cover of your safety of your base defensively. And you know what you should do then? Make another round of Lings and do it again. Break his ass apart with Lings and defensively use this army, because we're going to watch it right now, and I imagine you're going to get fucking steamrolled with this army, because this army is ridiculously hard to micro aggressively. You know what you're basically doing? You know what you're doing right now? Imagine you have two kids, okay? They're both like 10 years old. Now, here's an analogy for you. You have two kids, and they're both 10 years old. And you have one kid you give him a quarter, like a coin, and you say, flip the coin and catch it. And if it lands heads, you win the game. And he keeps flipping the coin and catching it, flipping the coin and catching it. Maybe it takes him 3 tries and he gets heads eventually. And maybe it takes him only 1 try and he gets heads. It's not that complicated, right? He flips a coin, he catches it, and he's looking for heads. And now the other kid who's the same age, you give him a fucking Rubik's Cube. And you're like, okay, I need you to solve the Rubik's Cube. I need you to get every color on each one of its own sides, and you can't have any mix matching going on. And then you go, okay, you're like a stopwatch, and you're like, okay, go. That's what it's fucking like when you're trying to micro this diverse spellcaster CG army for Zerg that's super fucking papery versus Skytoss. It's so hard for Zerg to win this fight in the middle of nowhere. Is it doable? Yeah, it's fucking possible. But is it realistic? Is it consistent? Fuck no, it's not. It definitely is not consistent. So give yourself the advantage of consistency by playing defensively. So Protoss allowed you to abduct a couple units there. Sloppy by him. And now, here's the biggest mistake you're doing as well. This is where a lot of Zerg players, once again, fuck this thing up all day. If you fight Skytoss with Hydra, what happens if your anti-air dies? You lose, right? Like, what happens if all your Hydras die? Well, carriers kill you. So why would you ever run your Hydras in front of the Lurkers? Do you know what the Lurkers are supposed to do? The Lurkers have 2 jobs. A lot of people understand what the first job is of Lurkers, but I feel like most Zergs do not even comprehend what the second job of Lurkers is. So the first job of Lurkers, which everybody knows, is to kill the fucking High Templars. And to like kill the ground units, but more specifically, they kill the Templar. That's amazing, right? You're like, cool, I'm killing Templar. That's nice. I'm avoiding getting stormed and shit. That's great. But if your Hydras were standing like right here, Lurkers serve the same purpose as what I told you the Spore Crawler served back here when the first 2 carriers came to your base, which is that they tank the interceptors. 1 by 1 by 1 by 1 by 1. It gives Protoss a shitty engagement, and you want to know why? If 0 of your Hydras die, you will kill interceptors almost as fast as they spawn. They will still spawn faster than you can kill them, but you'll kill them really quickly as well. By the time the interceptors have spawned all 8 of their interceptors out of the carrier, you'll have killed either 2 or 3 per carrier, guaranteed if you have like 25 Hydras here. It's very realistic. Now, check this out. What if you took an Infestor and you put a Microbial Shroud over a Lurker? A Lurker has base passive armor. It has passive armor. A Hydra does not have passive armor. A Lurker does. A Hydra doesn't, which means a Lurker automatically tanks damage better. A carrier is a unit that gets fucked over by armor. 1 armor represents not minus 16 damage off of a carrier's auto attack. Because a carrier has 8 units attacking 2 times each. Each interceptor goes 2 hits. 2 hits. So Carapace applies twice and it has 8 interceptors. So it applies 16 times. If an interceptor dies, instead of timesing 2 by 8, you do 2 times 7. If 2 interceptors die, 2 times 6. If 3 interceptors die, 2 times 5. I hope that makes sense. 8 interceptors times 2 attacks per interceptor. So Carapace is multiplied 16 fucking times when the carrier is at full power. So that's huge, right? That's amazing. Now check this out. Microbial Shroud reduces the damage of an air unit by 50%. 50 fucking percent. So if you put a Microbial Shroud on top of the Lurker, it makes these carriers do 3.5 damage. That's each interceptor is doing 3.5 times 2. You know, because it has 2 attacks. But then you have 2 armor that reduces 3.5 2 times. So it's 3.5 times 2, but really now because of 2 armor, now it's 1.5 times 2. It means that each one of these fucking interceptor shots that shoots a Lurker is going to do fucking 3 damage. 3 damage, 3 damage, 3 damage. This fucking thing has 200 health. 200 fucking health. This thing is tanky as shit when you're doing 3 damage a shot. And then on top of everything else, again, your Hydras are going to be killing interceptors behind the Lurkers all day. So the damage is actually going down because interceptors are dying. Now what happens to the Hydras when they take in the front? With no Microbial Shroud, they're taking in front of the Lurkers, and they're taking the initial shots of the carrier. Is your Hydras are just evaporating in seconds. Any Hydra that gets shot, just insta-die, 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 insta-die. And the beautiful thing as well, I know this is hard to micro, but guess what? Remember what I said about the Rubik's Cube versus the coin you're flipping? If you have your opponent who has disruptors, if your opponent shoots disruptor shots at you, you know what you should do? Tell Lurkers to up burrow and move your entire army backwards. Because you have Lurker upgrades, and Lurker upgrades are super fast burrow and unburrow and moving. So you could easily go, oh, disruptor shots are being launched, up burrow, run away, burrow again. So you can easily avoid that if you micro it. Even though you didn't micro it at all, you did lose some more Hydras and some Lurkers because of that. But look at your Lurkers. The second do you see what happens? Even though you just lost a bunch of Hydras and like half your Lurker because you took a hasty fight, you just fucking steamrolled his ass the second he engaged Microbial Shroud Lurker. The second he engages this, what does he do? He runs away. So why not start the fight this way rather than end the fight this way? By the way, whenever a damage type, so let me explain the 0.5 thing. Whenever a unit does 0.5 damage in StarCraft 2, it takes 2 hits to register 1 damage. Whenever a unit has more armor than the other unit attacking it does damage. So for instance, if an Ultralisk has 8 armor and a Marine does 7 damage, whenever armor matches or is more than damage, it always means 0.5. So if a Marine shoots an Ultralisk that has the Marine does 7 damage and the Ultra has 8 armor, it will always do 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. You cannot do 0 damage in this game. It is impossible. It's always either 0.5 or 1 or more than 1. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. So 0.5 is the minimum damage that can ever exist in this game. And just by the way it broke down, the fact that 7 divided by 2 is 3.5, because that's what Microbial Shroud does to it, that counts for, you know, a 0.5. So a probe does 0.5? Yes. If a probe attacks an Ultralisk 2 times, it will do 1 damage. It does not there are no decimals in this game, so it's not going to say a carrier has 299.5 out of 300. That does not work that way. It does not. There's no decimals that get recorded here, but a carrier will take over. If a carrier could get attacked by something that did 0.5 damage, it would say the first attack would go attack it. It would say 300 out of 300. The second attack would attack it. It would say 299 out of 300. And now look what you're doing again. You had the advantage and he ran away because your lurkers zoned him. And now what are you doing? You're completely disregarding your lurkers and you're moving your hydras into his face again. Now you're once again going to die. See how your lings are fucking shit up too? Like, ling counters are correct. Your lings are doing great. They're not even, they don't even have, they just got speed, but they don't even have Adrenal yet, and they don't have any weapon upgrades yet. Why not let these lings fuck over the Protoss, and let the Protoss feel the need to all in into your base defensively, on creep, with spores, and good setup already. Like, you're not using your army at all correctly here. You're using it in such a hasty way where it's getting killed. You keep allowing him to fight with his hybrid army all on your Hydra. You're putting, like, you're basically putting way too much stress on the Hydra and not enough on the Lurker or the Spellcaster. Like, imagine, I mean, this is what it's like, okay? This is legit what it's like. Imagine that you have three guys that are all doing a job, okay? And their job is to carry shit from one location to the other. And one of these guys is fucking super buff. He's like a bodybuilder. Another one of these guys, he's in shape. He looks normal. He's in shape, but he's not huge. He's just in shape. He's not overweight or anything. And your last guy, he's like anorexic. He's like super thin and he's not really able to carry a lot. And you're looking at all three of these guys and you go, you know what? Let's take the really skinny guy and give him all the load. Give him like 80% of the load to carry, and then the other two can carry little bits here and there. And the comparison I'm making here is your Hydras are like the skinny guy, your Spellcasters are like the average guy, and your Lurkers are like the super buff guy. The Lurkers are like the primary focus of this whole fucking fight, and you don't even use them. You are not even fucking using them ever. Like, you're only using them when your little anorexic Hydra guy is getting run over, and he's like, ah, and he has to fall back to the fucking Lurkers, and then finally the Lurkers get used every time. The Lurkers should be taking the majority of the focus here, because you should be pushing with Lurkers, sitting behind them, pushing with Lurkers, sitting behind them, pushing with Lurkers, sitting behind them. And again, you shouldn't even be here in the first place. You should be defending your base and letting lings do the pushing. Notice how every time he runs into Lurkers, his ground just gets fucking decimated. But you've done it to a point now to where you've lost so many Hydras throughout this process that you're trying to engage 7 carriers and a mothership. Or sorry, 7 carriers and a Tempest and 2 Colossus and 2 Oracles with 4 Hydras. Like, 4 Hydras can't beat that. They just can't. So now you're going to lose the fight. Like, you don't have any Hydras anymore. You should have like 25 Hydras here, not 4. And now, like, see how, like, there's a little bit of a lull now in the fight? If you had a defensive setup of Lurker, Hydra, Infestor Viper, and you do another Ling counter, this is correct. Ling counters are correct. I fucking love it. Watch your Ling counter. You know what I guarantee? If this dude does not replace what dies, I bet his army will come over and defend it. Unless he either has one of 2 options. He warps in a bunch of Zealots, or he made a bunch of cannons again. And if he doesn't do either, this army walks over here to defend it. And you know what happens with an army? When this army gets displaced, you can kill this base for free with Hydras and then run away before you fight it. You don't need to fight this aggressively with Hydras. Fight it defensively. Let Protoss all in you rather than all inning him. Now, what is your Lings going to do? Look at this. Lings are fucking owning. And he recalls. You know what you could do? Hydras right now. Pop that base. Pop that base maybe. If you fucking fight his army off creep again, you're totally missing the point. And here's the thing too. Watch this. It's also not the time to do it because you waited so fucking long. If your army was like already right here, like if you had a changeling as well, something fucking scouting, knowing that he's not waiting for you right here. The second you saw the recall, you immediately go Lings, run away, group 1, a move on the mini map. Like you could literally go like this. Group 1, a move, click right there. Right where my mouse is. Green box your Lings. right click back here. Run away. And then watch his army. Watch his army. What does he do? Well, okay, you can't really see it, so he's gone. But now look at the time of the clock. Okay, it's 16:10. For some reason, I feel like you saw it the first time. What the fuck? Oh, that's super weird. When I have it on faster speed, I think you can see the army move. That's super weird. Watch this. The fuck? I did not know that. Did you guys? That's like a bug in the game, I think. When I have it on faster replay speed, you can see what units do before they go in fog of war for longer. Before, if it's on normal speed, you can't see them at all. Watch, you won't see them move this time. You'll see them just fade out. Now you'll see them move again because I'll put it on ×4. That's so fucking weird, but okay. Anyways. That doesn't really apply anyways, even to a real game, because you can't see units like that in a real game. You can't go, I'm going to ×4 the game now. It's always on normal speed, faster speed. So, whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is your army waited way too long to initiate this fight. Like, you should have, the second he recalled and he showed up, you should already be, like, here now. But you're here, like, 10 seconds later. And now I feel like you trying to push this base, you're going to get caught by carriers. You should never get caught by carriers, and if you do, it means you took way too long. And look, there he is right here. You're getting caught by, like, you killed it, you need to run the fuck away right now. You're getting caught by carriers. This is great, though. You're doing a push and pull. You're pulling him down here, and now your lings are countering him again. This is great. Your lings are on point. And now what's he going to do? He's going to defend his base. So you know what you should do? Go kill this fucking base when he comes to defend his base with your hydras. And look at shit like this. See these zealots? Who gives a fuck if you have 9 spines? Remember what I was saying? Remember how I was talking about 9 spines? If you come home now to defend these zealots, while he defends his main base and his natural with his carriers, missed opportunity to kill this nexus. Because if he's up here killing with his carriers like right there, and you drag him all the way to the corner of his base to kill your lings, your hydras could kill this and run away. A hydra runs faster than a carrier, especially if your creep is right there. And if these zealots were about to walk into fucking 9 spine crawlers, they wouldn't do shit. They don't even have charge yet. If you had enough spines about the economy situation we talked about earlier, you would destroy these zealots, which is an opportunity to kill these to kill this fucking nexus. But if you have to run home now because you don't have enough static D, missed opportunity that you just created for yourself to kill a bunch of economy in his base with your lings, and then also kill another nexus with your hydras. I feel like you're gonna run home and defend. So now he's attacking your base over here with zealots, and you are going to probably go defend that. You're going to defend that. And now look at his army. He's actually going all in. So if you saw him going all in, you should definitely back up now. I would never say fight the army in the middle of nowhere again. Definitely back up, get yourself situated, ready to engage defensively. And now he's just going to let lings just run his base over for a while he makes DTs to eventually clean it up. But if you lose this game, 100%, I think you're going to lose this game because you don't have enough lurkers and you overemphasize the anorexic hydra with putting all the weight on him and not enough on the lurker. Because you know what's going to kill you for real? It's the fucking ground units supporting the carrier. It's the disruptors. It's the colossus. And look what you're doing. You're engaging. You're chasing his ass. You burrow your lurker. Okay, he runs away. That's fine. But I mean, you are losing hydras like crazy while you fight this. Like, you might be abducting here and there, but you're losing, like, you're A-moving everything so far up there that you're losing everything in the process. This is, again, hard as fuck to micro. I'm not saying this is, oh, it's easy to micro this. It's super hard to micro. So stop putting yourself in a situation where you have to micro it. You know what you should do instead? Just wait. Just make a base, make a static D at it, get a good economy, and let him engage you. And as he engages you, then you abduct him into the engagement, and you don't lose fucking 8 hydras as you try to kill 1 carrier. Like, look at that. You just killed a carrier, but you just lost like fucking 6 hydras for it, or like 5 hydras for it. You're about to kill another carrier, and you just lost like a chunk of like 10 hydras again. Like, you're trading like crazy right now because you don't put enough emphasis on Lurker. And disruptors don't matter against Lurker. If he shoots out disruptor shots, you have 2 options. Number 1, abduct them. If you see a guy, a Protoss player, who goes, I hate Lurkers, I'm going to shove disruptors in your face. If you abduct a disruptor as it shoots its shot, it cancels the shot as it's abducted. It doesn't even matter if the disruptor shot is over the top of a Hydra. It will literally, it'll like dud out. It'll cancel it because the disruptor is currently being moved by an abduct. And then you kill the disruptor because the disruptor is super squishy. So you could literally counter it with abducts, or you could just you could go, okay, he's got his disruptors right here. My Lurkers are like right there. He's about to shoot disruptor shots. The second you see the balls go boom, like towards you, fucking up burrow, run down to right there. As soon as the shots explode, run right back up to right here, burrow again. And disruptors go on cooldown for 21 seconds. Honestly, if you want my real opinion, this is my real opinion to help you, okay? Again, this is Diamond League. Put Lurkers on Group 3 and stop using Vipers. That's what you should do. Honestly, that's what I think you should do. I think the fact that you're going Viper, Infestor, and Hydra, and Lurker is... And you're also doing it aggressively. It's extremely complicated. Get good with using Lurkers, and then add Hydras onto it again later.
Yeah.
Or sorry, then once you get good with Hydras and Lurkers and Infestors, then add Vipers on last again. You're not using Lurkers at all correctly. And Lurkers are so much of the base here. They're the most important thing here, and you're like using it the least. And now look, no static D, right? Remember static D? Why do you make static D, ViBE? Because when you're busy fighting his army and zoning it, you don't lose your economy. And now look what happens when you have to go defend your base against static D, because you have no static D. He pushes you and kills you. It's the same thing you were doing to him a second ago, because he also didn't make static D, and you were fucking him up with your lings. You have to make static D in this matchup. Anyways, Depthifying, good shit, dude. Overall for Diamond League, that's honestly above Diamond League, I would say. I think you're actually playing at like a Masters level, like low Masters. Good shit though. Keep up the progress. Definitely use Lurkers more. Do everything we talked about throughout this. Really try to have a plan with the way you play. Like how we talked about, remember how I talked about like don't go fucking Hive with your tech and do a Hydra timing? It makes no sense. Definitely try to have more of a game plan. But I definitely think you're being way too aggressive with Hydra, Lurker, all that shit. Just play defensive, zone out the Protoss wherever he goes, and do counter-aggressive pokes with Lings. And then if the Protoss is busy defensively now defending his bases because of Lings, then poke him with Hydras and shit. But still, don't fucking fight him in his territory with your main army. Just if you can, if you go, oh cool, I can snipe a Nexus, do it. And then go home again and wait for him to attack you with creep and static D and shit like that. Starve out the Protoss. That's the whole plan. And yeah. Anyways, that's probably, in my opinion, the best way to play against Skytoss. And once you get like Lings that are level 3 weapon on melee Adrenal, they start wrecking bases fucking crazy fast. But anyways, thanks for watching. Depthifying, shout out to you for doing an analysis for ZvP Skytoss stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope anyone out there learned something, whether you're Protoss or you're Zerg. Again, this is a Zerg-focused lesson, though. But I will see you guys in the next one. So until then, take it easy. Much love. And I'll see you next time. Peace, guys. See ya.